Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Valentine. I hope you had a nice weekend. So it's Monday, it's the day for Math 7A and Math 8 to have your mini lesson. Today's lesson is going to be pretty easy. You're going to like it. So your homework is going to be to give me a summary answering the essential question, just like you did last week. And then also I'm going to have you do IXL Math 8, F8. Multiplying exponents. I think you're going to find that really pretty easy. This is something that you're going to get the hang of very quickly. Also, take a minute if you haven't done it already. Go ahead and stop and go use the key that I put on Google Classroom and go ahead and check what you did last week for your work on exponents, the assignment that I gave you on Wednesday. Go check that and see how you did. And if you're having any trouble, don't hesitate to make an appointment with me on Calendly so we can talk face-to-face and go over what you're having trouble with. I don't want you to fall behind. And then go ahead and take out your notebook and walk along with me on these video notes. All right, let's get started. Remember, pause wherever you need to. I'm going to try to go kind of quickly so that if you need to review the notes a second time, it doesn't take a really long time. So pause frequently so you can do some work on here as well. If you have a note-taking app like Notability and you want to load this into Notability and then like watch the video on your phone, then you can work right along with me without using paper. But if you're working on paper, stop frequently so that you can keep up with me. Okay, great. Here we go. Okay, we are multiplying exponents with the same base today. Here's your essential question. You only need to write what is in black. Using an example, explain and show why the rule for multiplying powers with the same base works. So when you do that, be sure to expand your example into factored form. We're going to do some of that in this note section right now, so you'll have all the information you're going to need right in the notes. Also, be sure to explain your work in words. And be sure you checked what you did last week, because a lot of people I sent comments back to you to make some revisions just to kind of clarify what was going on with your summary. It was kind of a chance for me to say hello to you and kind of give you some kind of personal greeting. But also do check what the comments are. And if you're having trouble and you don't really understand what I'm talking about, again, feel free to make an appointment with me on Calendly. We can go through it all together. Okay, here we go. Multiplying powers with the same base. So we're going to start by taking each of these examples and we're going to expand them into factored form to find the answer using exponents. Don't bother writing anything that's in blue. That's really just kind of for you to think about but not have to write about. All right, so let's look at this first one right here. Let me make sure. Okay, looks like I'm good to go. Okay, so we have 5 to the second. We know 5 to the second is 5 times 5. So this is what I mean by writing it out in factored form. And next you have 5 to the third, so times 5 to the third. Well, 5 to the third is 5 times 5 times 5. So we have 5 to the second right here and 5 to the third right here. Well, when we count how many times we're using 5 as a factor, it's coming out once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. So we get 5 to the 5th power. On the next one, x to the second is just going to be x times x. And then we've got multiplication still. And next we have x to the 4th. So x times x times x times x. So we have x times x there for x squared. And there's our x to the 4th. And if we were going to write this all using one exponent, we'd have x to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th power. Oh, by the way, I want you to take a look at what's happening. Well, here, I'll go back in a minute. Okay, next we have x to the second, y to the third, times xy squared. So let's get x times x, that's x squared, times y times y times y, that's y to the third. And then that's being multiplied times x. There's just no exponent on it, so it must be to the first, only one power of that. And then times y to the second, so y times y. Okay, we can do a little regrouping there. Since it's all multiplication, we can move these around with no problem. Let's get all the powers of x near each other. So we have x times x times x. And then let's get all the powers of y near each other. So y times y times y times y times y. At these and these. So when we're all done, we have 3 factors that are x, so x to the 3rd. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 factors of y, so y to the 5th. So that whole thing comes out to x to the 3rd, y to the 5th. Okay, so I want you to take a look at something for me. I want you to look at the exponents in the problem and the exponent you ended up with in the answer. Again, look at the exponents in the problem, and then look at the exponent you ended up with in the answer. And look at the exponents in the problem. This technically would be to the 1st, right? And then, oops, let's leave that red, never mind. I'm going to change colors for the y since that's a different base. Let's change that to blue. Again, the exponents in the problem and the exponent in the answer. And I want you to think for a minute, what are you noticing? Is there a way for us to skip straight from the problem to the answer? Do you see a shortcut? Pause and think about that for a minute. Okay, we're back. So you had a chance to think about that. Hopefully you noticed that on the first one, your exponents are 2 and 3, and you end up with 5. Well, 2 plus 3 makes 5. And sure enough, we had 2 factors of 5, then 3 factors of 5, which made a total of 5 factors of 5. On the second one, we had x to the 2nd and x to the 4th. So 2 plus 4 makes 6, x to the 6th, because we ended up with 6 factors of x. And then on the last one, we've got 2 different bases. Well, if we look at the powers of x, we go to the 2nd power and to the 1st. 2 plus 1 makes 3. We end up with x to the 3rd, because we ended up with 3 factors that were x's. And then if we look at the y as a separate base, you've got y to the 3rd and y to the 2nd. 3 plus 2 makes 5, so you get y to the 5th. And that's because we had y uses a factor 5 times. So the rule that we can get from that is that to multiply powers with the same base, add the exponents. Write that down. That's very important. To multiply powers with the same base, add the exponents. You don't need to write what's in blue here. We're just going to go ahead and use that rule now to simplify each of these problems. Okay, so we'll notice that we've got x to the 12th times x to the 10th. We've got the same base there. Our base is x. And then if we have to the 12th and to the 10th, add 12 plus 10, that's going to make x to the 22nd power. And you're done. Next one. Our base is 2. Our base is still going to be 2. And we're multiplying these together. So we've got 20 and 16 for our exponents. That means we're going to end up with 36. Think about it for a minute. This is basically saying you would be listing 2 20 times with multiplication in between it, and then another 16 times with multiplication and all between it. So that means you would be listing 2 a total of 36 times. That's all you're doing there. Same over here with the x's. You'd be listing x as a factor 12 times, and then x is a factor 10 times, and so 12 plus the 10 together makes 22. Let's try a little more complicated one. So let's look at what we have for bases. We've got 2 different bases. Let's look at the first base. Let's look at 5. So we have 5 to the 7th times 5 to the 9th. And then we could group up also the second base, 6 to the 8th times 6 to the 10th. Okay, so, oops, let's go down. So that means if we get our powers of 5 together, we have 5 to the 7 plus 9 power, which is 16. 5 to the 16th power times 6 to the 8th times 6 to the 10th is going to be 6 to the, add these together, 18th power, and we'll leave it at that. Over here we also have two bases. We have the x's, so we have x to the 8th times x to the 10th, and then we have the y's. So we have y to the 6th times y to the 12th. And so when this is all said and done, we end up with x to the 18th. And actually, you don't really need the, let me erase that. You don't really need that. X to the 18th. I to the 18th also. Because 6 plus 12 makes 18, and also 8 plus 10 makes 18. Okay, so that's how multiplying with the same powers with the same base works. You may want to go do your IXL first, because that will help you to kind of reinforce this question, and then go back and answer your essential question for me. So again, I want you to create your own example. So using an example, explain in words, and show why the rule for multiplying powers with the same base works. So I want you to use your example, expand your example into factored form, and also be sure you include words. So basically, I want you to kind of go back to those first problems that we did. I want you to go back to the problems like you see, whoops, where is it? In example 1, 2, and 3. Go back to those problems. Make up an example similar to those, and then work out your own example and explain in words what's happening and why the rule saying that you add the exponents works. Show me why it works by using the factored form, and then just explain that in a sentence or two. Okay, great. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Valentine. We're going to give this a try and see how it goes. All right, so today is the first day of This is still going. I feel like it's still going.